Okay, this is the Town of Woodbridge Board of Finance meeting on Thursday, March 7th, 2019. The main purpose of the meeting is to review and act upon the budget recommendations to prepare to send them to the preliminary budget hearing. First, before we start that, we have with us tonight Scott Bassett from RSM, who are our auditors. Scott's been with us for many years, so.
RSM, and RSM conducted the audit for the town of Woodbridge for the year ending June 30th, 2018. As typical, as we went through the audit, the records were in very, very good shape. There were no audit adjustments proposed by us as we received the trial balances. We received full cooperation from both the town side and the Board of Education side. No instances of any significant deficiencies or material weakness came up during the audit. The significant event in the current year, and we had talked about it last year, was a new accounting standard that changed the way certain other post-employment benefits were measured. It really went from a contribution match to really what the accrued liability is based on lives and mortality rates and health trend rates. It really didn't impact your budgetary statements, but it did impact what we call the government-wide statements. And it adjusted, it's about a $12 million adjustment added to the liabilities in the financial statements. The town does have a trust set up. I think there's about $4 million in that trust as of the end of June 30, 2018. So that's as you continue to contribute to that trust based on actuarial methods, that liability will decline just as you basically because the actuaries had to use a discount rate of about 3.6%. As you add to the trust, that discount rate or the investment rate of return can increase each year, and as that increases, depending on the health trend rates, obviously the liability could come down. As far as other than that, I would say the results of operation were pretty much as anticipated. In 2017, you had a refunding and things like that. Nothing of that nature this year. The town received a clean, unmodified opinion, which is typical. Had to change the number 24 years in a row. Tony has presented the report to, I don't know if Tony, I think it's about 24. So he must have done it when he was in high school. Yeah, he started when he was high school when he did that. So from a gap standpoint, the general fund, unassigned fund balance is something that you look at as you go through your budget deliberations. It was about 12%, a slight increase from the previous year. On the budgetary basis, there was really no surprises as far as big significant variances from what you had budgeted to the end results. And the general fund, the fund balance increased about $495,000. The town continues to have a strong collection rate of 99.55%, which is probably one of the highest I see. We do about 20 communities out there, AAA communities out there, and 99.55 is very high. So that helps with as you budget. We talked about the OPEB liability. Really, that's actuarial driven, and that, the items that key that calculation is mortality rates, health trend rates. So the actuaries go through that calculation. What we do as your external auditors, we send that valuation out to our own actuaries to take a look at to make sure the assumptions are reasonable. And we did that, and they came back as being reasonable. And the town received about $1.6 million in state funds in the current year, a slight decrease from the previous year. As I said, going through the report, probably 140-page report, and there's the MD&A, which Tony writes, and it explains in a narrative format just what happened during the year, and pretty much what the aspects that I just went through are included in that MD&A. So it was a really quiet year other than the OPEB. Next year, there are no really significant accounting standards that will be adopted by the town. So with that, I don't know if you want me to go through anything further or if you have any other significant questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Does anybody Need any further information? Yeah, go ahead.
With regard to what is in our kind of general fund that we put money into every year, what do you feel is a recommended percentage? And, I mean, I ask that
Yeah.
because we have some extra money this year, and I'm not sure it should all go into that source.
You know, so that, you know, as a typical auditor, I'll take the easy way out, but, basically there's varying benchmarks out there, to be quite honest with you.
Yes.
If you went to the GFOA,
Yep.
depending on the size of your budget, they would go, all the way up to 3 months worth of expenditure in assigned
Right.
fund balances,
understand.
right?
Yeah.
So I think more importantly, this is my answer, I think you're at 12%. I don't think that's to the extreme, high or low, to be quite honest with you. It's probably right in the middle where you'd get some recommendations. But I think as you go to the rating agencies and talk about fund balance, it's really a fund balance policy, and as you stay within that policy, you manage that. So right now, at 12%, you know, as Tony goes to the rating agencies, they probably take a look at it and say, you know, it's probably right in their range. So it could be as high as, you know, depending, I always say this because depending on the budget, if it's a really large budget, say if I'm doing the city of New Haven,
Sure.
different
Yeah.
size, right?
Yes.
But depending on your budget, your percentage would typically be higher if you compare to larger communities. So
Sure.
I think that's the key, is like take that, not just the percentage, but the percentage based on your expenditures, because I would typically think a smaller community would have a higher type fund balance reserve. So I didn't answer your question, but I would say you would see anything, and Tony can correct me if I'm wrong, but you could see anywhere between 10 and 20% with their fund balance. And I would be, I know
Wow.
I just did a large city, and they're over 25%.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that's kind of where I come out with, yeah.
My other question is, are there going to be any changes from a reporting perspective? I know that for not-for-profit,
Yeah, nope, well, a couple things, so far, you know, we've had this reporting model, this new reporting model for about 11 or 12 years. Right now with the GASB, they're going through the preliminary phase of changing, some of the financial statements. One of the things I think they're going to change is right now your budgetary statements are what they call required supplementary information, so they're in the back. I think the GASB realized that that's an important document.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put more responsibility on the auditors to audit some things with the budget-making process. So that's gonna come up, and what that really means is we'll start opining on it. Right now, we don't opine on the budgetary
Okay.
basis.
Okay.
So I would say, but that's not, I would say that's probably 2021. So I think we're with these statements
Okay.
for another couple years at least,
okay,
okay?
all right, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Anybody else? Scott, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
He's 59 years old. Tough, I know. Cancer, 6 years. That's why he couldn't make the last meeting. Okay, we have 5 sets of minutes to approve. The first is, was a joint meeting of the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen on Thursday, November 29th. I'll move acceptance of the minutes of November 29th as presented. Second. Any adjustments, corrections, anything? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye, okay. Next is December 5th, which was another joint meeting. These were the capital meetings that we had. December 5th, 2018 Joint Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen. I'll move acceptance of the minutes of the December 5th meeting as presented.
Second.
Any adjustments on these? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. January 22nd, another joint meeting. This was budget meeting. I will move acceptance of the minutes of the January 22nd meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Next is January 24th, again, a joint meeting, and I will move acceptance of the January 24th minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And finally, our last meeting our last joint meeting, January 29th, 2019. I'll move acceptance of the minutes of January 29th as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, now, item 3 on the agenda is review and act on Board of Finance, that's not right, is it? It's Board of Selectmen, I'm guessing. Anyway, review and act on Board of Selectmen.
It's your recommendation.
So I recommend, I thought but reviewing, aren't we reviewing the Board of Selectmen? Whatever, okay. Review and act on Board of Finance FY 2020 budget recommendations that we will present to the preliminary budget hearing on in April, what is it, Karen? 22nd?
I think.
22nd,
Yeah.
April 22nd, okay. How are we gonna do this? Okay. I've gone through and I've got some ideas of different things. I will say this, I don't think we're gonna finish this tonight because I think there's a lot of things that we might have to leave up to Tony to look into. So I think we can do some specific things, but I think we're gonna have to lean on Tony a little bit with some of the suggestions as to whether or not we can take money out of here or put something here, so. But specifically, we can certainly come up with some ideas. So, why don't we, we'll do capital first? Look at the capital budgets first?
Okay.
That's the back of the packet.
Can I actually just make a comment
Sure.
in terms of, money that is available to us, and this has to do with the Amity surplus
Oh, yeah,
that we
sure.
got, as opposed to putting all of it, aside from what Tony set aside, to fund what we think will be our increase next year because of students.
Right.
Then basically what you said there is, $761,134
Correct.
left
Correct.
from that. And I think I would like to entertain, as we have our discussion, the option of maybe using some of that money to fund some of our capital projects that were initially submitted to us, whether they were recommended by the Board of Selectmen or not, as we kind of go through what is here.
So the Amity money was roughly 980, right?
980, yep.
Yeah.
And we're carrying, what, 220 into
Into next year's budget.
next year's budget, in what
Right.
form?
When you go into revenues, it says Amity surplus.
Okay. That's in addition to the 400 we normally carry?
Correct. And that's what we did last year, in the current year, not this year.
So
400 plus the
if we
220.
start at 980, and
Right.
we've already committed 220,
Right.
Right.
760.
that's 760.
60,
Yeah.
right.
And there's a few other things.
Yeah, there's
I
some
was
other things
planning to use that money for.
Right.
Okay, so maybe we just
So-
make that part of the discussion.
So absolutely,
Sure,
if you'd, I
okay.
could certainly. One was the deficit at the Board of Ed.
Okay, yep,
So, it's about 250 currently. It's, out of these funds, because there were some funds you reserved last year. And then the other is, for the, HVAC, work at the Board of Ed.
okay. All of it, or, I mean, I saw based on the Board of Selectmen, they're recommending 40,000 into
Right,
next year
there's
and 100.
roughly 100,000, that's roughly 100 there.
For this year.
So if you subtract all that out,
Mm-hmm,
that's, you get, about 400,000, roughly. That's
You're
good-
talking
that's a
about
good round.
250 and 100, or 40?
40 for next year, 100 for this year.
100 for, out of here, and 40 for next year.
40 is in the capital budget.
It's in the capital budget, right?
Next
request,
year.
yeah,
Correct.
for next year.
So that leaves 423, to be
350.
specific.
390. How much?
423
3,000
left of the surplus.
So the question is whether that goes in
You lost
You
it.
follow?
I have 980, we've
Minus 220.
220 is 760,
Right.
Minus
250.
Minus
For the
250,
current
yeah.
Minus
Board of
100.
Education
Minus 100.
deficit.
minus 100, 350, 410.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, 410, so you figure
Got rid of that in a hurry.
say 400,000 to
Okay.
be,
All right.
yeah, that is an option for, as you go through the process.
Okay.
And it's a one-time thing.
Yeah, and it's
No.
basically for one time, I'm talking
Right,
about
yeah.
one-time
It's gotta be.
expenditures.
Right.
It's gotta be.
Right,
I'm not talking
'Cause you
about
won't
things that
replicate
are
it.
recurring.
because you won't
because-
replicate it next year.
Exactly.
Exactly,
Right, right.
and we
That's
don't
my
wanna
point
get
of
into
this,
that
yeah.
situation.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But I think we have a number of, one-time expenditures that we should look at. And I'm not saying to use all the money that's here, but I think that we could use some of it. And that would help
Sure.
mitigate our circumstances.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, Matt, go ahead, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, let's, assessor, that's a no-brainer, we can't do anything with that. Board of Ed, let's leave that for now. Board of Selectmen got wiped out. Beth, where were you?
I'm doing nothing.
Well,
No,
and
we-
actually, so that's what I'm trying to say, is
Right.
that maybe that is
Yeah.
worthy of being funded,
Right.
because it
These are-
does impact the
That
whole
might be
town.
again, that might be something I'm saying, we're gonna talk at our next meeting.
Right. This
Once
is
we
like
get
the 90,
once
for
we get
example,
the,
is the shed.
yeah,
We had to postpone it. We just, right now couldn't afford it.
If you,
and-
just to give you a scope of sort of where we are, would that be helpful?
yeah,
So you can sort of
For
get an
this year,
idea
you
of, no, for where we are in the budget so far.
Okay,
So, in terms of, I could talk in terms of a mill rate increase, if that's
Okay,
helpful.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, if you take the, documents that you were handed out, and, the Board of Selectmen was at a 3.62% mill rate increase. The one adjustment I made so far was the adjustment to the Amity budget, which is a reduction of $130,000.
okay,
At 129,355 to be exact. And, so that leaves your mill rate at 3.33% increase. That's where it is currently.
Oh, that's not on this sheet.
no,
Yeah.
no, because it didn't happen.
It hadn't
Okay.
happened when
Produced
we.
that.
So it's,
right.
if we take, Amity, so just for those of you who don't know, went from, I think, 184 to down to 1.02.
I think
Oh,
they were
0.2, yeah, yeah.
1.02.
something
Yeah,
to
right.
1.06,
And don't be surprised if they lower it
1.06.
even further. They're constantly looking at ways to,
And I'm sorry, what is the amount that translates into? Tony, please?
129,355,
Okay.
and that brings us down to
3.33.
3.33.
So
Okay,
so if you want to, say your goal is to get to 1%, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
That is my goal.
Is that your goal? Yeah, okay.
Maybe a little
I had
below
feeling-
yeah,
I had a feeling that was the case. You need $1.1 million in adjustments,
Okay. Okay.
okay?
All right, so let me just, I wrote down a few things, and
okay,
I think, let me run through I got 4 things I'm looking at in capital. And I'm gonna defer to Tony if he thinks I'm nuts, okay?
Okay.
All right. The Darling House, I think it's 18.4.
18.4, I
Right.
had the
How
same.
about making it 10,000? Would that be,
Okay.
you know,
I mean, they use it, I think some is a good idea, because it's used to leverage grants in other locations.
yeah,
But, I can put that in here. yeah.
put that in for now.
Yep,
Then we'll talk about it, okay?
okay.
I also have, in the Fire Commission, technology,
Uh-huh.
20,000.
What I'll do is I'll put that here, and I'll get back to you on that to make sure it's not something critical,
Okay.
okay?
I spoke to you, Tony, about, and you had suggested to me that perhaps the waste
Yeah,
management,
those you can put out
the
another year.
containers, we can get another year out of.
Yeah, correct.
So that's
Okay.
30,000.
Yeah,
And something that we always, and, we'll get stomped on for suggesting it, but would it be out of the world to knock 50,000 off of roads? 800 down to 750, which is a big number,
Okay,
put that in there.
All right.
And, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah,
Okay.
with capital.
Yes, so I also had a question about the van for human services. I thought there was some discussion about maybe leasing a van instead of purchasing one. Is that still an option?
Oh, I hadn't,
I didn't know about that. We left it in because we were told that they need the money as a placeholder in order to apply for a grant for it.
Right.
I don't know how much, I think it's an 80-20 grant, is that
Correct,
right? So
yeah.
they,
What? Okay.
I can, look
so
into that
that's why
if
we
you want.
did it.
Okay, is that something that we could do? Can we lease instead of buy the vehicle?
Thoughts? I don't know.
And I guess I would ask the same thing for some of our public works vehicles. We have a lot of money that we're putting aside for reserve. And can we look into that and see if that would pay from financially
Okay,
to do that? Oh, yeah, but, I mean, if you look at public works, what we're putting into truck replacement,
when you say lease, do you mean lease purchase or lease?
like renting issue?
Right,
depends upon what the finances are.
right, okay.
And the other question I had was, the bridge and waterways reserve. I know that was cut to 25,000, but, when was the last time we actually used that money?
We, cleaned out we had to clean a, culvert out
Most recently.
most recently. That was the last time we used it. But it's used occasionally when there's a flooding situation, we have to fix something or
And
address something.
so I don't know how much we're going to need. We cut it to 25,000 because, in the future, very soon, we're going to have, the Army Corps, there's a lot of flooding down in the Litchfield Turnpike area.
Yes.
And Rosa DeLauro and the state people and the Army Corps of Engineers is coming to take a look at it. We might get some money from them, but we also have some opportunities for funding. And apparently, in order to do the funding, you need to do certain studies. So that's why we left the 25 in there, to do the studies so we can apply for the funding.
So don't we have a balance in this account?
We do, yes.
And-
It is, probably, I could look right now.
It's worth it.
Yeah, if there's sufficient funds in there, fine, then we don't
Right.
fund it this year, that's it.
Yeah, that's
Good question.
reasonable.
Yep.
$5,018.
Oh, okay,
Let's leave it.
never
Yeah.
mind.
I mean, you could fund a portion of it, you
No,
can
no,
reduce
no.
a little bit of it.
No, no,
Yeah,
the 25 is fine,
okay.
yeah. I didn't realize it
All
was
right,
that.
any other ideas on capital?
Well, so then the question is, so are there any of the things that we've said we're interested in funding? Could that come from the
410.
410,000? Or is there anything that was taken out, okay, that
Well-
could be funded?
At this point, let me just mention, I don't know if we all heard, but Human Services is not happy that, where is it, by the way? They said,
It's in building maintenance,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
it's
see
in
at the
building, right.
195?
And, okay, 195.
So it's put out a year.
The
Yeah.
senior, the senior center. But I think in conversations I've had, the center building has got to be a project in and of itself. I think to spend 195,000, I think we got to, look, the police department, as I said, they're next. They've got to be taken care of.
I think that whole building.
The building,
is a
exactly.
project.
So that, anybody who has rooms over there, the senior center, I think that's a bond issue, personally. I don't know that I want to spend $195,000 on this. I want to spend more than that. I want to renovate that whole building. And I think that's next. I think we've got to deal with that building, and the heating system in there is archaic. I remember when we had our stuff for Little League in there, the heating is like steam or something.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
Oh, it's archaic. So I think it's
It's a
time.
mess.
That's
I mean, the
right.
senior center is a mess.
Yeah, it's
There's just-
time.
It's old, it's dated, it's terrible.
Well, and I agree, Matt, I think we had this conversation,
Yeah.
that building needs to be addressed, that building's has needed to be addressed for decades. evidenced by the police department, by all
Yeah.
the other departments that are in there, rec, everything. But they've already committed a lot of work to that with the bathrooms, with the ramps, with all the work that they've been doing in there. And I agree that if we piecemeal it, it's not cost effective. But to say that we need to address it all at once puts everything off years as far as
Many
getting
years.
anything done there. And as you said, Matt, you go in there now, it's kind of embarrassing.
It is.
And
The whole building
You know,
is.
and the senior center is relatively vibrant. You know, it's a very
They're also
vibrant, and they have a lot
making-
of things that are done there for people 55 and
They're also making a big
older.
effort to attract baby boomers.
Right, and that's part of the
And
issue as well, is, you know, people go
it's-
in there and they see it and they don't really wanna,
Exactly.
I mean, it's something that needs to be addressed, I think, but, I think there's some things that can be done without addressing the entire building. Of course, the heating and ventilation is an issue as well, so, I mean, I don't know where, it's a lot of money, but they've been told all along by the Board of Selectmen
Right.
that proceed, proceed, proceed.
And then we have this year's budget show up.
Right.
and-
Right, so I mean, I get it, but, you know, I think at some point after this budget season is over, we need to have a serious sit-down with each department and the buildings in town, and figure out what it is we need to do, and come up with a plan for addressing them, because we can't do them all at once, and the budget we have before us is not sustainable. So, I think we can't wait until next budget year to say the same thing. I just fear I'm gonna be sitting here a year from now saying, we need to put it off another year because we need to address the entire building, and we haven't addressed it yet.
So maybe we need to have a sit-down with them. And, I personally, again, spend 195, we're gonna fix that area of the building, but we've gotta do the whole building. I know that's not gonna happen in a year,
We
so,
did you get the memo as well for the painting?
no.
You didn't get the memo?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
everyone.
There was a memo.
Oh, okay.
Mary Ellen,
Maryland requested. the-
could we
Okay.
possibly do 15,000
Oh,
immediately to at least paint it and make it, you know, just,
yeah, that's,
and I
We've
think
got
it should probably go to the
contingency
Board of
funds.
Selectmen.
Yeah, yeah.
We could probably
If that
find
will-
that money before July 1.
if that will,
To at least do that, but you know, it's just a Band-Aid, it's not,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
fixing it, and it's,
so again, I think, you know, before we just say, oh, let's put 195, we can't put 195 back. We're looking to get this thing down to,
Maybe we can fund some of it.
Yeah.
And not,
well, if Mary Ellen's interested in painting and thinks that could get them over the hump for the time being, and with a promise from us that we're not gonna drag our feet on this, we're gonna get going. I mean, not only for them, but for
I
the police
wanted to
department.
promise when I
Right,
talked
but-
to her yesterday about this, and it's so hard to promise, because who
Yeah.
knows what's gonna happen,
I
I
know,
can't
I know.
promise.
Right, I mean,
It is in my
there's
hope and
nothing
my heart to
that
do
we
it.
could do here. I mean, it's the Board of Selectmen's gonna have to put something together to address these issues,
Right.
and we can
Yeah.
work with the Board of Selectmen on how you finance that, but we have a serious issue across the street, I think, that needs to be addressed overall. Again, I mean, the fact that we just put in a handicap accessible ramp, we're just doing that now,
Yeah,
It's
is
done.
just
We
crazy,
dedicated it on Tuesday.
right? I mean,
The ramp's gonna be done in the spring,
yeah, I know, I'm just saying
Right.
that the fact that we're doing it now,
I know.
and it's been needed for a long time.
So let me just propose this, would it be possible, they do have a plan and they have a price, do you think it'd be possible to do some of it? Put it back in, and, or do you just, you're more in favor of the whole building
I
at
am.
the same time?
I am,
Well,
yeah.
I'll leave it to you guys.
I am.
Cause I could meet with her,
I'm one person,
why don't we talk,
I'm one person.
well, all right,
Yeah.
I'll let you, it's your decision,
Well, to me,
this
it's
is
the
your meeting.
same issue with the police, okay? They've been waiting a long, long time.
Right.
And now for us to say, well, you're bringing up a good point again, and we should probably do the whole building instead of just doing the police department. And at some point, it's really unfair in terms of the environment in which they're working. And, I mean, we don't have a plan in terms of saying, this is how we're going to address, whether it's buildings or other large projects. And, I mean, Tony's presented a number of times in terms of what is our debt service, what does it look like, when can we take on more debt? But we haven't made any commitments as to what's going to be next and how much. And again, is that the Board of Selectmen? Okay, or is it the Board of Finance? Or is it both together to try to create a structure that people can then count on, departments can count on, when their project is going to be done? And there should be some type of a rotation system, and it's maybe, once every 5 years, 7 years, whatever, you get a major amount of money to do what you need to do. But we haven't really approached it from that perspective, and I think that type of structure is needed. I mean,
Well,
we commit about 1.6 million
Yeah.
every year to capital. Okay, and that's been pretty consistent. And I think we would want to keep that up. I don't think we want to reduce that because we have to invest in the infrastructure of the town. But if we're going to continue at that level, then what does that mean for the next 5 years? And again, it doesn't mean we can't change it, but at least we would have a plan, and we don't really have a plan right now.
Is there a point when our debt service is declining a bit?
Yeah, it's in a few years,
In a few years,
Yeah.
okay.
2-3 years. So, but if you have a project, that's how long it takes for the debt service to actually come on board by the time you
Right,
form a committee,
Sure.
right.
come up with a design, construction.
Well, police, their project, they're talking $5+ million.
Right.
So I don't think they want a 300,000 or 400,000 to fix
No.
that
That's an
thing.
old number
No.
too,
Yeah, that's an old number.
Right, right.
a very old number.
But, so the question is, given what the senior center is asking for, it's still a Band-Aid, it's not a redo of everything. Should something be funded for them, even if it is 150,000 instead of 195? To say, see what you can do with 150, include your painting in that, and,
That was kind of my point,
yeah, yeah.
but it's your decision at this point.
No, I think we're not gonna solve that tonight, so I think we gotta meet with them.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll meet with Mary Ellen and Jeanette and see.
And if 15,000 can get them cleaned up and functioning.
just painting,
Let's,
that's
I know,
it.
just painting,
Right.
right.
Well, and I don't know that we have a good understanding of what would that money actually get us? What are they doing? Are they replacing the flooring? Are they getting
They
new
brought a whole
furniture? I
project
mean,
They're doing a lot of
Maybe
different
you
things.
so,
but
yeah,
That whole proposal
okay,
was, I think, 365, and it's pages of everything, brand new down there.
okay.
Yeah. I think when they came to do their operating, they did it as part of that because they didn't have it for the capital.
Correct.
Right,
Correct, yeah.
so.
Okay.
So Tony, at this point, did you record, I just mentioned 4 things, did you put those in?
Done, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. Why don't we start talking about the operating budget now? And, we'll go one by one, and again, I jotted down some things, and,
Could I first make a statement? I'm sorry.
Matt's reading.
go ahead.
We have 40 departments or programs, okay, that submit budgets to us. And 19 departments, almost 50% of them, came in with submissions of 0 or less. And I really think that all of those departments should be complimented. And they deserve a big thank you for coming in at that level. Then the Board of Selectmen made their reductions, and 4 more departments were added to that list of 0 or less than 0. And they actually reduced the operating budget by about $158,000. So that's what they did, separate from the capital, of course. And I would like for us to consider maybe taking all departments to 0. Because that is across the board then. People cut where they could cut, and some took them underneath 0, which is great. But maybe everybody should be at 0, except for places where we know we have contractual obligations, salary increases, benefits, debt service.
Debt service, yeah.
And that those we can't change. But if we were at 0, what would that translate into?
Everybody at 0.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, there's, as you go down the sheet, there's a whole lot of minuses on this sheet.
Oh,
There's not too many, there's not too many you gotta move to bring down to zero, but,
There's 23 departments or programs, that are 0 or less.
yeah. All right, well, all right, so Board of Selectmen, let's go past the ones that are minuses and go to the one, I mean, I've made some notations on some of these, and
Okay.
let's see how they come out, right? Board of Selectmen minus 1.55%. Probate minus 6.3, all right. Town clerk, I jotted down capital, which is 3450.
Right.
All right, why don't we, if we do that, what does that bring them to?
Definitely minus below, definitely under zero,
Okay,
yeah,
minus 3450, okay.
yep.
Registrar, down 29%. Government access is 0. General administration is minus 44. Information systems, I don't know.
So, the contractual part is the, data processing and the software maintenance, those are contractual. The things you can remove would be I could suggest, if you wanna reduce this, that we remove the computers, and with this year's money, buy the ones that are critical. I could do a
Okay.
contingency transfer for the
We do have a
critical
chunk of money
ones.
still in contingent.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not quite out of the woods with this snow,
Snow.
but
Yeah.
we're almost
Yeah,
there,
it's all over.
Okay.
yeah.
I said that last year, we got 7 snowstorms.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that.
So we'll
Just
take
take it
that out,
back.
and then we'll,
All
Karen
right.
and I will reassess, the,
Yeah.
information systems
So
budget
what'd you
to
say you were taking out of there?
5,000.
$5,000.
And again, we do have,
We do, about
computer line.
150,
barring anything, just,
150,000 roughly.
yeah, okay. So what would that bring information systems to? Because it's 7.45.
Tell you in a second. $3.37.
We'll leave that for now. Finance is minus 12. Tax collector,
Those are contractual, the two
Yeah.
top increases. I mean, there's some little things you can do here, if you want,
tax collector? Yeah,
but not much.
that's a small budget.
Yeah,
Assessor. 1.32%. Again, I don't know.
there's a step increase on the third line.
So that's contractual too.
Yep,
Says the non-salary is actually down 0.88%.
right.
Let me just get there. I don't see anything. The only thing that went up is, let's leave them alone for now. BAA, Board of Assessment Appeals, I jotted down something on that. $1,300.
Yeah, you could probably do that.
Just pick something.
Yeah. Okay.
Board of Finance, we could knock something off. Let's knock something off,
The contingency.
Yeah.
contingency.
I had a feeling you would ask that question, so I'd say you can knock 25,000 off the contingency.
All right.
Okay.
And this is sort of ties into that fund balance question. So
Yes.
the, when you change estimates and assumptions, it may or may not impact the fund balance, but that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 Okay. TPZ. What do you think, 10,000 or so?
The,
What's this general professional services? Is that our friend?
yeah,
That's not the
No.
strategic plan.
no, I'm not aware of any specific,
Yeah, legal services.
It was used for.
They had a planner, town planner,
The
right?
town planner, yeah.
Which they don't have anymore.
All right, knock that off.
Okay.
So 10K off of town, planning and
Yep.
Okay.
Zoning Board of Appeals, that's nothing. The center, that's a minus, I don't think there's much, I looked at that. I don't think there's much that you could do there,
No,
it's utilities and,
that's it. It's pretty
Yeah.
much utility.
okay, leave them alone, they're minus already. Former firehouse, that's nothing. I don't like that title, former firehouse. Former, it's still a firehouse.
Old firehouse?
Yeah. Abandoned firehouse? No, it's not, it's not abandoned.
Sounds terrible.
It's not abandoned.
Come up with a new title.
Yep. That's your job.
All right, here's my favorite one. Why do we spend 61,000 on the Country Club of Woodbridge? Why don't we shut the stupid thing down
Well,
entirely?
it's probably insurance.
I
No,
don't know.
it's
Well,
utilities.
it's
Like,
utilities.
if you abandon the
Utilities.
building,
Well, if we abandon it and shut everything off, I mean, you
it's
know.
about $40,000 savings.
Savings. We're working on it,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I
Right, but
mean,
there's other issues with that. So
Correct.
As I discussed last time,
right.
well,
But what are the issues? I mean, we can just board the place up.
right.
you're gonna have to fence it, you're gonna have, there are a lot of other things. It becomes an attractive nuisance, and then we run into our own blight ordinance.
Well, it looks like blight already. I mean, it's not gonna get any worse. I mean, $15,000 to heat it. 21,000 for electric. I mean, it's crazy.
Those are all the lights, outside lights,
Yeah.
and exit lights and, you know.
Tony, this is what I'm talking about. Why don't you come up with a suggestion on
Yep.
that for our next meeting?
Okay.
We gotta do something with that.
Approach
the crazy.
fire department about burning it down.
Okay.
Yes, yes, exactly. We have to
Got
kind
it.
of get the stuff out
I
of there.
think if we
but-
could find out, exactly what's the impact of that,
Right.
Police Department, all right, they're at 2%. How about,
So I have a question,
Yeah.
comment on this one. The one I'm gonna look into is, I think with the new radio system, we get the first year of maintenance comes with the system.
okay,
So there's, in their budget, this, I have to verify this, but I believe this is the case. 22, there's about $30,000 in maintenance charges that probably won't kick in until the year after.
okay.
So I'm gonna put that on the list here and then I'll double check that.
Did you also check the money that was supposed to come out of PD for, was it the radios that went to fire?
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about? Okay.
yeah.
Now,
Cause
so,
it's in
yeah.
the fire department budget.
Now, is that what we just talked about removing
Yeah. 'Cause
from the fire department? Because we had mentioned earlier.
You have a choice. You can keep this in the police and remove it from the fire department.
Right, but you can't take it out of both.
Right.
So-
Right, right.
No? Ah,
Well, you
Double
could.
dipping.
I also have a question about overtime. I don't know, what year is the overtime for that homicide? Is it in the 2018-19?
This
Kurt,
Wait a minute.
no, it's in the 17-18, the 130, most of it's in the 135.
So why do we need 130? Do they know something we don't know? I mean,
No,
I would knock that off.
yeah, okay.
I would knock off
It was
20.
at 100
Okay.
in 18.
Yeah, right.
Plus, usually,
So then it went to
I
127.
don't wanna jinx
because
myself,
of-
but oftentimes they don't have a full complement because of
Yeah.
one reason or
Yeah,
another.
yeah.
And so usually there's some savings in salary to help offset.
All right, well,
Yeah.
so now
20 is
let's
good, yeah.
lower overtime.
Yeah,
20.
okay.
All right, Motorola, that's what you were talking about.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. Um, How about Norcom?
That's the part of the 30,000.
Part of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Capital. They got machinery, 14,344. I don't have a list.
That is, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I believe it's, firearms and
Oh,
it's
right,
$8,700 of it.
right. They're replacing their
They're
firearms.
guns, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you reduce that, and again, we'll get that,
And
we'll
then
look
some
at that.
modems and stuff.
I think we
Yeah.
talked about maybe looking at that
Yeah,
out of contingency, because they could
yeah.
get them that soon. So knock out,
That's 8,700 for the firearms.
knock out 8,700.
Okay.
That's out of the capital machinery?
Yeah.
Again, these are things,
What about funding the whole thing out of,
You could. I mean,
because again, they have a large increase in their budget.
yeah.
Okay.
So if there are things that we can fund this year, then let's just.
So you wanna do
that.
capital machinery and capital furniture and fixtures, which is like 17,000?
Yeah.
Right, get rid of both of those.
okay.
With the expectation we'll fund it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This year.
We'll fund
yeah.
all or a
Okay.
portion of it.
Just make sure it
Okay.
doesn't snow.
I got this.
Well, that's up to the police to
Stop talking
actually
about it.
arrange, right?
What, make it not snow?
That's right,
Yeah.
if they want the funding, yeah.
I'll talk to the chief.
All right, let's say the same thing on the fire department capital.
Okay.
Take out 10,
What are we taking out?
10,000 out of
The capital
57410. And we'll,
This line.
Similar,
yeah,
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 okay.
then we'll take a look at it.
Not the whole amount, 10,000.
Just 10,
Just
yeah.
10.
Okay. For now. Animal control, I don't have anything with that. Medical services, that's contractual.
Yes.
Building official, he's down already, so leave him alone. Public Works, they're down already, leave them alone. Waste management,
We have a problem with recycling.
okay.
That's the big problem in waste management. I don't know if you've read it, we've discussed
We
this.
talked about it at
Right.
the last meeting, yeah, the geniuses in Hartford changed it, and,
So now the thing about the waste management budget is, although that's going up $17,000, we're gonna be putting in a scale, which will hopefully collect revenues on the other
right,
side of the budget.
that was one of the things I had, yeah,
Yeah, so,
under revenue.
yeah,
So we gotta leave this one
so
alone.
that would be my comment on that. was
Leave it
to
alone?
Leave it alone, but acknowledging that you'll collect revenue.
Okay. And we
You
will,
could even charge for recycling now.
We
I mean,
will,
We're
yeah.
gonna charge for,
No,
if we're gonna collect,
I'm not
pay
prepared
more
to
per
go
ton.
there yet, yeah.
Did they figure out the
Still
single
one of those
stream
supposed
yet?
to do it.
what's that? Not
The
yet.
single stream, that's
No.
hasn't,
building maintenance, leave them alone. Recreation, leave them alone. Pool and gym, leave that alone. Parks, leave that alone. Woodbridge Outdoor Pool, that's
How do you
going.
like the pool?
That's the best numbers we should have seen them 2 years ago. Thomas Darling House, we're not gonna worry about that.
We collect that,
We get it
that's a
back from
pass-through,
them,
we collect
yeah.
that.
Yep. Yep. Library, they're fine. Minus 2.7. Conservation Commission, that's nothing. Economic Development, that's nothing. Inland Wetlands. 0. Employee fringe benefits there, that's still to be determined, right, Tony?
Correct, yeah, I wouldn't touch that, I wouldn't.
Now, Amity, I guess Amity working with their, they got an agreement on their insurance, that's how they were able to bring it down, so
Right,
maybe we'll get lucky. Debt service. We had a discussion about the possibility of not having to bond that, right?
that's correct,
The country club.
right,
And because we're in the process of hopefully selling some and building some, that maybe we could go with bands,
correct.
which are a lot less, we could save some.
So if we're allowed through legislation to roll our bans another year, that would reduce this by 107,000.
Oh, wow.
And that's been discussed up in Hartford. So
Correct.
there's a good chance we can do that.
Good chance.
Okay. So that's good.
I'll put that in,
Yeah.
I'll put that in the number.
Put it in,
Yeah.
worst case scenario.
How much was that, you said?
107,000.
117,115.
Service. Okay. Woodbridge Board of Education. Just a few things I'd like to mention. As I promised you, I would talk to Orange and Bethany. Talked to Bethany. They told me that they too have a bump up in special ed. And they're coming in at 2.64%. And I've been promised that's going down.
This is who, Orange or?
Bethany.
Bethany, sorry.
Orange just announced 2.8%. I'll guarantee you that's going down. No one Orange voted. Orange voted against the Amity budget at 1.02. They wouldn't vote for it. They want 0. Bethany tells me, John Grabowski, the chairman of the Board of Finance, and Bethany told me he's shooting to come in at 0 overall. And Orange always tries to come in at 0, so there will be some cutting going there. Another interesting point, talking about special ed, Amity's budget, they lowered their tuition expense, special ed tuition expense, to the lowest level since 2014. So they've been able to lower their special ed tuition expense budget to a very low number. And again, as I said, they got it down to 102. And,
Is it numbers of kids, or is it?
well, it's numbers of kids. I think it's programs they work on, and their
I mean, it
director.
has to be number of kids.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what drives that
Yeah.
number.
Yeah. Well, whatever. We're not getting that. Okay.
well, eventually those kids are gonna go to
Yeah.
Amity.
Yeah. I also found, I don't know if the rest of you get comments from older people about where they're headed in this town. And that, we heard Bill Silverberg. I thought that was a very interesting presentation where he compared, tax percentage to grand lists, and grand lists are going down. And we heard our assessor, Betsy, tell us basically that if your house is in the 300 range, it's looking good. If you're at 480, 500, chances are it hasn't gone up at all in value. Speaking to realtors, I've spoken to a few realtors, and they say that they can sell houses in the 300 range, but when you hit 450, 500, you're going to have a lot of trouble selling your house. And that falls into line with this CERC report, which I'd like to just read. The smallest quartile of homes have held their value the best over time, followed by the largest quartile of homes. The mid-sized homes, or middle two quartiles, have trend lines that slope downward more significantly, indicating a decrease in the sales price over time. In examining the data by number of bedrooms, similar trends emerge. The smallest homes have held their value over time better than larger homes. In considering future development in Woodbridge, these trends help identify the types of housing currently in demand. These findings may also be indicative of larger trends the town should consider as it examines its fiscal future, as declining home values in large segments of the market could reduce revenue or result in a mill rate increase if expenditures are not reduced in conjunction with home values. So I've heard from, friends of mine in my circle, and that they're not happy with what's going on, that the taxes keep going up, the house values are coming down, and if they start moving out, we're gonna really have a dilemma with these 4 or 5 bedroom homes and no kids. I mean, I'm thinking of some of my friends, me, I got a 4-bedroom house. Sandy,
I do.
Tom, I mean, I don't know, Paul, you have kids.
Yeah, stop.
He's young. But, it's a dilemma. If people start moving out of this town, it's a
Well,
dilemma.
they are, but,
Yeah.
but they aren't also, because I can speak to 2 friends who are trying to sell houses in the 900,000 range that have had to drop to 2,500, 100,000, still not selling. It's not good. And, we just have to address that. I don't know what we do, but it's a problem here in Woodbridge.
Well, it's the taxes, it drives your monthly
Absolutely.
payments.
It's like somebody said to me, I can't remember who it was, that 40 mils is like a nightmare. When you hit and surpass 40 mils, it's just not good. It's like a benchmark of not a good situation. So and we're gonna nail it this year, it looks like. So,
There.
does anybody have a suggestion as far as the Woodbridge Board of Education?
Well, I will make the same suggestion, that we go back and look at what are the contractual obligations that we need to meet. There's salaries, there's benefits, there's out-of-district special education. And that becomes a baseline. And there are a lot of additions in that budget, and the issue is, what's the trade-off in terms of adding? I understand that there are more children to be educated, there are more special ed students, but to really understand this very large number that's been given to us, I think we have to take out the things that we know we need to fund and then be able to understand the rest, as opposed to just giving a number. That's my perspective.
So how do we do that?
I think we have to use our superintendent and the finance director for Beecher. I don't think we have the
Could I just-
ability to
I
do
don't
that.
have it all.
No.
I don't know what the answer is. I think it's important that we all protect our children and the classrooms. And maybe there's some efficiencies in facilities for just this year. I don't know that you could further look at. And Bob and I have met with Al and Tony, and I know you guys are thinking about it again, rethinking it, I guess. I want to protect the classrooms and the kids. That's our most important asset there. And if you can.
Yeah, I mean,
We all do. We
I'm
all
not
do.
sure that we should, cut current programs.
Right.
But maybe we can't afford to add, at this point.
Well, I think Tom's word was unsustainable.
Right.
I mean, the growth in the Woodbridge Board of Education budget it's unsustainable. Not only are we looking at a 5.7% increase, we've got to stop this, overspend your budget and we'll cover it. It doesn't work that way in the real world. Budgets are meant to adhere. You have to adhere to your budget, and to just overspend the budget, no other towns do that. Amity, the reason Amity is so careful in preparing the budget, they know they can't come back. Because if they overspend their budget, it means 3 towns have to have town meetings and a referendum to get them more money. So they're incredibly careful in what they do. We passed last year, I think, 2.7%. And now we're talking about giving them another, $250,000, another $100,000. I mean, that's not the way you budget. I mean, there's no sense in having a budget if you're gonna overspend it. No, there are circumstances causing that, but it's gotta be discussed. You just can't spend it and then say, okay, the town will cover it. I know at one point, we had an
Well-
agreement about special ed and whatever, but,
Correct.
that's gotten out of hand. Again, I sit here and I had one person say to me, you're not gonna give us the $195,000 for the senior center, but whatever the kids in Beecher and the Amity want, they get. And that's not fair. There's a lot of seniors in this town who would like to have a senior center that they could be proud of. And the place is, as we said, it's not a very nice place. We gotta take care of them too. It can't only be about education. Remember, there's a lot more people in this town who don't have kids in the schools than do. So,
Well, I think though, Matt, when it comes to special education, we set the rule. We want you to budget for what you know about. And the piece that you don't know about that happens, we will fund. If we want to change those rules, then they're going to come back with a bigger budget. That's what Amity does, because they don't want to have to go back out to referendum. But they get surprises also, but they have enough play in their budget to cover that. So it depends upon what rules we want to set up. And right now, they're playing by the rules that we established for
well,
them.
again,
The increase is
It's-
not all the special education, but that is a component of it. It's about $200,000 of it.
well, it's obvious if we want to get down to the numbers that we're, at least the number that I'm thinking of, we're gonna need a significant cut in the Beecher budget. Not 100,000, that's for sure.
And I'm not suggesting a number.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that perhaps we need a little more information about what is the baseline of what we absolutely need to cover without any increases. I mean, there are increases proposed in teachers and facilities in a number of different areas, and to maybe look at the budget from that perspective. I mean, people might have other suggestions in terms of what to do. But I think without understanding that, just giving a number is meaningless. Maybe Bob or Al have some idea of what that baseline is? I don't know.
I'm sure they don't have it right now.
I can share some thoughts, but if you want, we could do that.
You have to
You
go
have
up
to
to the
come up to the
microphone. We're getting a sign from behind.
Oh,
Come up to the, if you want him to talk,
yeah, well, that's just briefly.
not my meeting.
Yeah.
So thanks, and I guess I just will say, first of all, thanks for the opportunity just to say a few things, and I also want to appreciate the collaborative spirit around the table, because obviously there's already been some looking at other departments and making adjustments and cuts and things like that. So I appreciate the spirit of all the collaboration and the discussion this year. And I did put forward a very a high number this year, 5.77, and it was not a number just to make that. It was a number that reflected what we have now, moving it forward, all the obligations contractually, taking care of the facility in a more robust way, and also meeting the needs of a growing enrollment and the special education population. We have the second highest percentage increase of students in the entire state next to New London. Percentage-wise, we're the second highest. It is a large increase. There's a number of towns that are asking for larger increases this year, and a lot of those towns, even some of our neighbors, have declining enrollments, but they're asking for numbers over 4%. Fairfield, Meriden, Southington, Trumbull. It doesn't mean we have to do that. I realize that, but it's not an anomaly. It's many places that's happening. If I had added nothing to our budget this year, if I had just simply taken exactly what we have right now and just looked at contractually what we are obligated to, the special education out of district, it would have been a 3.6% increase just out of the gate with that alone. So those are just honoring contracts, honoring a more robust way of looking at the facility now that we've had some bumps along the way after the building project and learning some things along the way in preparing for the future. So those things are included there. This year we did not have any large windfalls like other places. We don't have the benefit of an excess cost grant coming back to us specifically. We didn't have any insurance changes that gave us any kind of a windfall, things like that. Last year we did a lot of things to bring it down to 2.6%. We created new revenue streams preschool, and we did a lot of things like shared transportation and things like that. But at this point we're sort of at a crossroads. So I'm going to answer the questions directly. It's not what I would advocate for. I want to advocate for 5.77 because I think that's what we need. But I think what you're asking me is, what are you obligated to do, Bob? I think I'm hearing that. What are you obligated in terms of the programs, the contracts, the out-of-district placements that you have that you can't get around? Those are legally binding documents. And also the students in the building, more of them coming in with special ed plans that are also legally binding documents. To do that, all right, and cutting out a lot of things that I've asked for would be painful. It would come down to about 4.1%. And that's roughly cutting around $245,000 out. I would not be able to cut out the special education, most of the special education staff that I've added this year, because I need those people for the legal aspect of carrying on a higher percentage of kids who have moved in who have those plans. Our percentage of kids have gone from 8% of our population to 11% of our population. So bottom line is, we have to meet that. Those are staff members that I can't, it's non-negotiable as far as I can see. But we have done other things that would impact other well, it would impact the other 89% of the kids. Not having the extra class in first grade, not adding a psychologist who would adhere and take care of the social, emotional issues of other students. And there's other things. We may have to look at level funding technology or cutting supplies and some other hope for savings in some other areas. So if the question is, what does it really take, what you actually have to have, and absolutely with pain involved, that's what I would say right now. Not something I would advocate for, but I know, listen, we're being collaborative. I realize it's something that I realize we're all looking at this together as a town. So that's, I guess, where I would just sort of try to answer the question.
We'll have to see, if we can get that, we'll have to see how that fits into our overall plan. I'll tell you right now, I'm one vote, one out of, well, 5, maybe 6. I'm not going to the town with a 2.5% increase. I'm not. I will just say, well, let's cut this and this and this to get us down to what everybody else wants. And I know it's not going to be pop, but I mean, there comes a time when you have to maybe alter some of your ideas. Maybe class size has to be looked at. I know it goes back a lot of years when we didn't have so many kids in the school, but maybe the times are changing, and I'm just perplexed as to why our special ed is so much more than our 2 neighboring towns. And,
Because
you
we
know,
have a reputation
Well, there you go.
for
Okay.
taking care
Right.
of special
Do it
ed
well.
kids
There you go.
We do it well.
in a very good way.
Yep.
If someone gives us a phone call and says, hi, Mr. Gilbert, we just moved to town, and my child has these needs, and they are right now not actually in their home school in their particular town where they're moving from, we do everything we can to see if we can make sure they're in the home school, the least restrictive environment, and obviously at a lower cost, but that is really the case. And yeah, so more students moving in equals more students with needs moving in, and a higher percentage of a higher number. And sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes a district may have fewer students, or some kids age out and they haven't moved on. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't.
And again, it's not a case where, what Beecher Road School this or Amity this. Oh, but look at our home values, they're going up, because it's not happening. It's just the opposite is happening.
Right.
Because taxes are just eating people alive. And so, let me say this, because again, a couple of the other things, we haven't talked yet about the possibility that we're gonna have to pay a quarter, I don't know what the teacher's pension. Quarter?
Yeah, it's.
The 93,000?
93,000,
Yeah,
yeah.
another education,
Right, I understand.
ECS could go down. We don't know what again, it's all education, and all we're doing is sacrificing everything else in this town. Every other department, we're giving them zeros, and it's just gotten to the point where people are saying, enough, so.
And we've been doing that for a number of years,
Yeah,
cutting other departments too.
So let me say this, let's let Tony see if he can come to the numbers Sandy's looking for. And again, that's why I said we're not gonna finish this tonight.
Okay.
So, but I'll tell you right now, and this is again, one vote, I'm one guy, I'm gonna then just cut to get down to a more reasonable tax increase. I'm not gonna increase taxes 2.5% or 2%. We're gonna run people out of this town at the rate we're going with this. If we go to 41 or 42 mills, then who knows what next year's gonna bring. And again, what if this teacher's pension thing does come to fruition? Which I don't know. Any indication?
Yeah, I
No.
don't know, no.
It's just another 100,000 that we're gonna have to put in this budget. So let's
Okay.
see what we can come up with.
Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
And again, we with a lot of hard work and a lot of convincing by our first selectman and the first selectman in Bethany and Orange, we got Amity to return all that money to us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all going in one direction. It's the whole town should benefit from that. It was a windfall, and
Right.
most of it's going to the Board of Ed. So,
Well, that's why I'm suggesting that
Yeah.
perhaps we take some other projects
Yeah.
that do impact citizens in other arenas
Yeah.
and use it for that benefit. I mean, I think that's a reasonable way to approach this.
well, at this point, I don't think we can even begin to build into this what Hartford's gonna do to us as far as
Correct.
the
I would
pension,
agree.
but we have to have it in mind that, it could happen, and then we're
Yeah,
gonna,
the total, impact is, 93 plus, you saw the documents I gave you.
yeah, yeah.
It's about 140,000 in total.
Okay.
All right, the only other things, Tony, I'd like you to look at is, you said something about transfer station, maybe you can increase that revenue
Yep.
item?
Mhm.
And, anything else, interest income, I think we talked about?
Yep.
Might go up.
I could do that, yeah.
So upgrade those, and then let's see where we go from there.
Okay.
By the time we meet in 2 weeks,
And any,
I'm sure we'll be talking.
yeah, okay.
But again, I mean, if it's this board's desire to bring forth whatever tax increase you think is, I'm stuck on what I'm stuck on. I wanna see, anyway, I mean, Bethany's coming in at 0, he told me he'll guarantee he's coming in at 0, so. And I don't really care what Bethany does, but I do care about Woodbridge, so.
Right. I do think, though, that if we have a percentage increase in mind, we have an obligation to communicate that earlier, so that it's very clear what we're operating from. And, I mean, I've said this before, I don't think that we can just say, okay, it's only gonna be 1%, therefore we're gonna find this much money, and just cut, and not look at what are we operationally impacting. And that if we're not willing to take that kind of a stand, then I don't think that we can go and just slash budgets.
I don't think announcing that we're gonna try and keep the budget, the tax increase of 1% could have much impact on the departments. They don't know what their little department or big department, what effect they're gonna have on getting the taxes down, up only 1%. Really.
Right, but I think overall, the message is, here's where we want to be. So everyone is cognizant and aware. I mean, again, that's why in the beginning I said the departments did a fantastic job.
Well, I think
mean,
exactly.
almost 50% of them
I
came
think
in
they
at 0 or
certainly
less.
recognize that
Right,
we're
right.
looking to keep taxes down as close to 0 as possible. That's why they came in what they came in with,
Right.
so. All right, so I don't think, got some work to do,
Okay.
all right?
So I guess I would request in advance of our next meeting that we get some revised figures, not just be given it at the meeting, so we have a
Yeah.
chance to take a look at it.
Yeah. And if something pops into your
and-
head, Tony, just-
Based on, what you've done tonight and some of these other items that we've
Yes.
discussed.
Yeah.
Okay. And the suggestion you made earlier about the departments that are, even after all these adjustments, still over 0, you want me to look at those departments also?
I think we should.
Yeah, okay.
And again, certain things we may just need to fund,
Right,
but maybe there are things that we don't need to do.
okay.
you know, at some point in time, I'm beginning to think, so that we, all these people who complain and complain and complain, maybe it's time for us, as many of the other towns in our area do, is to put the budget to a referendum vote.
To do what?
Put the budget to a referendum vote. In a lot of towns, 2 parts, the town side and the education side. Maybe it's something we've gotta start thinking about.
But what does that accomplish?
Well, because these people who scream and holler about their taxes going up, let's see if they get out and vote, and let's find out what they think. I mean, give them a voice. Can't be afraid of that.
No, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not sure that that's the most expeditious way for
Really?
us to do what we need to do, but
Well, I mean,
I'd
to
have to think
pass
about it.
a budget of this magnitude every year with 30 people in the meeting room, that's not expeditious either.
Well, but people show up, okay, if they have a problem.
Yeah.
And they do, they come, and they let us know about it.
Yeah, a particular problem, but not the townwide problem that I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, we've had people come to our budget meetings, who have, you know, swayed us in terms of, I mean, we're not gonna give departments more than what they ask for, but where can we cut, or what do we need to preserve? So, I do think people come and talk.
Oh, well, something to talk about, anyway. Okay.
Okay.
So, you know what we're looking at.
Yep.
He's looking tired already.
Nah, you don't. Oh, this is the painting thing, okay.
Right.
Okay. We don't need,
Does anybody else have any other thoughts?
I mean, I think we've covered it. I mean, this is a tough thing to come to. And I think we've come to our plan of action. I think we should move forward here.
I just don't, again, I mean, year after year after year, I mean, this is unsustainable. We just can't keep doing this. I mean,
Well, it's not
I've
affordable
fought the
now.
40 mil thing for 3 years now, and we're gonna lose it this year. We are.
It's not affordable now.
You're right. You're right. And unsustainable, as Tom said earlier in the meeting. We just can't keep going. I mean, again, if our house values are climbing $30,000,
Right.
$40,000, $50,000 a year,
Agreed.
you'd say, well, okay, you know, but I don't think, you know, yeah, people are flocking in for the schools. If the house price, I mean, I think I told you the story about the 269,000 three-bedroom ranch that was sold by a client of mine. He came in this year and I asked him, he said, 2 kids to Amity and 1 to Beecher. 3 kids from West Haven. Came from West Haven, they bought the house, they were related to him, but 3 kids in the school system. From an old woman who lived there, no kids in the school system. And that's,
Right.
boy, that would be a disaster if that ever
Right.
starts happening.
Right. Well, I think this is why we need to investigate and push for additional sources of revenue. And whether it is a development, you know, on the country club property, it's more businesses in town. I mean, that also generates revenue. We will always be 80% or more, you know, residential taxes as the support of the town. That will probably never change. But even these other components will help to keep down the growth of taxes. So it's a balance in terms of what we can do with that.
Okay, I don't think we have to
Officially
adjourn or
adjourned.
anything. No, we never officially started, so. We'll see you on the, any thoughts?
Yeah.
389-3482.
You have my,
Listen, I'm talking. It ain't love that you handed out to me. It ain't love, so don't stand and shout at me. It ain't love, so baby, farewell, oh goodbye. And I could go on, but what's the use? You killed my golden goose, and from now on, I'm on the loose. No brother got this into me. It ain't right, Lord, no, it ain't right, no, no, it ain't right. So baby, farewell, oh goodbye. Ain't right, Lord, no, ain't right, no, no, ain't right. So